Now I know you've been thinking, Ollie Pope or Jacob Bethell. This one video will tell you exactly who to pick. I'm a cricket commentator and content creator, and this is episode 1 of answering your Ashes questions. First up, it's England form. Now I thought about comparing them on the test stuff, but actually Bethell's got 4 matches and Ollie Pope's got 61 matches, so not very fair to compare. So I thought start of October 2024 until the start of October 2025, how's their England form looking? Well, Jacob Bethell has played for England and batted 31 times, and he scored 979 runs. That's an average of 39, whereas Ollie Pope, on the other hand, has played in 20 innings, all in the test stuff, and he's scored 626 runs at an average of 31. Next up is experience at number 3. Now we're all well aware that Jacob Bethell is new to that number 3 batting position. Yes, he made debut there against New Zealand. He played 3 tests batting at number 3 for England, but we're going to come on to those stats in a moment because it's Ollie Pope, actually, who's incredibly underrated batting at number 3. He often looks a little bit scratchy, but these stats don't go unnoticed. He's batted there 57 times for England, and he's averaged 42. Now, across his whole career, he's actually scored 100 against every single Test nation he's played against, bar one. At number 3, it's big moments. Now, Ollie Pope is well known for when England are thinking about dropping him, Ollie Pope gets the runs. Notably, his 196 in the first test away in India was absolutely scintillating. And if he can pull something like that up against Australia in that third test, who's to say he can't bat at number 3? But we did just mention that there's one team Ollie Pope has not scored 100 against, and he's actually not scored a 50 against them either, and that is Australia, where he averages 16 runs per innings, and he's played 10 innings against Australia with a high score of 42. Alright, so maybe Ollie Pope, you can see him looking a little bit nervy. He only scored 157 runs across those 10 innings against Australia. Whereas Jacob Bethell seems to be a man who, the higher the level, the more comfortable he looks. Notably, that 28 ball 50 in just his second IPL game, and actually his last of that tournament, where he opened alongside Virat Kohli for RCB in front of tens of thousands of Indian fans who were desperate to see Virat Kohli bat. And on the highest stage, he hit a 28 ball 50. Absolutely ridiculous. And then you look at his debut test series where he came into bat at 3. He'd never done it before at the first class level. And then he went and scored 350s in 3 games, scoring 260 runs at an average of over 50. Now you fast forward to this summer where he scored that first professional 100 against South Africa. Again, on a huge stage at the Utilita Bowl. He made that happen. He got his first Pro 100 playing for England. It is ridiculous how much this guy rises to the occasion. However, you do want to look at that one test he played against India, don't you? He looked a little bit scratchy, and some were saying maybe even a little out of his depth. We know he's not out of his depth, but could that one test have maybe shown England that when England really need him, will he stand up? But it was just one test, and that's too small a sample size to judge Jacob Bethell. So the big moments players, it's probably Jacob Bethell. At number 4, it's second skill. Jacob Bethell's off spin, Ollie Pope's wicket keeping. Now, let's have a look at Bethell's bowling first. With his off spin, in all formats, he's got 15 wickets. But more importantly, England have used him as a bowler in 73% of the ODIs he's played, and also in 50% of the innings that he's played for England. Now, it's worth a point here that in the test format, Jacob Bethell's actually striking with a wicket every 20 less balls than Shah Bashir, England's number 1 spinner. And also comparing him to Bashir, admittedly Bethell's got a lower sample size, but he actually has got a bowling average that is 8 runs lower than Bashir. So that's worth a point to note that actually as a second skill between Bethell and Pope, Bethell gets used quite a bit. However, Pope's keeping gets used just in 10% of the test matches he's played. And with Jamie Smith behind the stumps, you get the sense that the only real thing that Ollie Pope will be needed for as a wicketkeeper is if Jamie Smith gets injured. But it's worth a note also that Ollie Pope averages 46 with the bat when he's got the wicket-keeping gloves on. Now, looking forward to England's warm-up for the Ashes down under in Australia, there was a question to Rob Key surrounding the fact that, is this enough of a warm-up for England just to play one game against the England Lions? Well, his response was that England have actually got a white ball series, 2 of them, 3 T20s against New Zealand away in New Zealand, and also 3 ODIs in the same country. Now, that provides England with a good warm-up where a lot of the test players are playing in that series in the run-up to the Ashes. Now, which one of these 2 players that we've been talking about today are involved in those squads? You guessed it, it's Jacob Bethell. So Jacob Bethell is going to have 6 games to warm up in New Zealand before the Ashes, before Ollie Pope even gets his first one, which is the only one for England against the England Lions. So the England warm-up schedule is really interesting, and it does, in fact, favour Jacob Bethell. And a final point, England selectors, including Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes, have seemed to have 2 key selection traits. Number 1, favouring Ollie Pope, which is loyalty and belief in players. Ollie Pope and Zach Crawley alike have been backed and backed and backed by the England selection panel, and it's enabled them to play with confidence and a little bit freer. Now that is favouring Ollie Pope. However, the second selection trait favours Jacob Bethell. This is picking players who can take it to the opposition, put high-class bowlers under pressure on the biggest stages. And I can't get a comparison out of my head which compares 2005 Ashes Kevin Peterson in his debut test series, where he was the leading run scorer in that series and arguably won the Ashes for England, and comparing him to Jacob Bethell in the 2025 Ashes. So for that reason, he's my pick to change games and win matches for England. But comment below who's your pick, and also which question you want me to answer next. Subscribe for more.